So, good evening, everybody, and I welcome you all for Council for Ayurveda Research and Ayurveda Anusandhan Foundation General Club meeting, second General Club meeting. And today we are blessed with the presence of renowned Ayurveda physician Dr. Zankana Bush, and she will present her topic for today's meeting. She is an extremely talented Indian Ayurveda physician and medical superintendent at Ayurveda hospitals, a multi-specialty Ayurveda hospital at Domlur, and she represents as a key member of Chief Medical Office at Ayurveda hospitals. She holds a bachelor's degree in Ayurveda from Gujarat Ayurveda University, and she is also a postgraduate from IPGTRA, Jamnagar, and specialized in Kai Chikitsa. Prior to Ayurveda, she has worked as a senior research fellow at ICMR, Advanced Center for Cancer Complementary Care, KHS Mumbai, with an eminent pharmacologist, Dr. Ashok Vaidya. Dr. Zankana is specialized in not only in the management of several chronic disorders, but she is also working in improving and enhancing the quality of life of cancer patients with Ayurvedic medicines. And she has many awards to claim, right from gold medal in 2003 from Gujarat Ayurveda University to Jivaka Award, the Himalaya Drug Company Award, top ranker and national entrance examination at Jamnagar, and many more publications in her area. Her major focus is on palliative care, chronic problems as well as cancer, and overall improving the quality of life. So her presentation today will also talk about how we can critically appraise an article, and she will just take us through the whole review of the article using IMRAD format. I will hand over to the Zankana ma'am now. Thank you so much.
Namaste, Dr. Pranita. Namaste, everyone. It's an extreme pleasure and honor to be a part of this journal club activity and presenting at this session today, doing a critical review, critical appraisal of a review of an article. This activity definitely is a kind of a different kind in its own way, that it allows the presenter, allows the participants to completely review and revisit any given research topic or an article completely with a fresh mind. And specifically when we come from Ayurveda, the Indian system of medicine, that scientific rigor, scientific comparisons of all molecular markers, lab medicine, clinical side, etc., is very much needed. And this is one of the best ways, in my view, to bring about an interaction or a discussion on a topic, where mere reading or mere referencing a work would be just limited and would keep ourselves completely closed. But here, this kind of an activity really opens up many avenues and many points are laid forth. So I would be today bringing about a review of an article which was published in 2004 in Diabetes Journal by a renowned endocrinologist, Dr. Gordon Weyer, and he is a part of Joslin Diabetes Center, which has its pioneering work on islet cells as well as on beta cells. So I would now begin my presentation here. Before we begin, I would make a point that this presentation is for academic purpose to understand methods for critical appraisal of a research paper. It is by no means intended to criticize the authors or any system of medicine. The views expressed here are with a very clear intent and purpose of brainstorming to bring in a parallel understanding in Ayurveda system of Indian medicine. I declare no conflict of interest. Research paper selected for today's critical appraisal is 5 stages of evolving beta cell dysfunction during progression to diabetes. It was authored by Dr. Gordon and Suzanne, published in Diabetes Journal 2004. I will be sharing the article and link to it for those who are interested to take up further reading and research. Giving a brief view about Dr. Gordon Weyer has combined a career of caring for patients with diabetes with an intensive research focus on beta cell replacement therapy. One of the most important goals of diabetes research is to find out new sources of beta cells. So Weyer's research includes islet cell transplantation and the function of islets in normal and diabetic state. The four fundamental queries that he puts forth, I find in my view very much which is related to the foundation of Prameha and Madhumeha that has been laid in Ayurveda Samhitas. And when these questions are correlated and are paralleled with the hypothesis of Prameha, we would get mind-boggling answers to the treatment which Ayurveda caters. That is to understand the mechanism that affects beta cell during diabetes, to new beta cells for transplantation, to perfect the procedures of beta cell transplantation, and to protect transplanted beta cells for destruction. While these were his four queries, we would try to basically focus on the first part, that is to understand the mechanisms that beta cells that affect beta cells during diabetes. Necessity for Ayurveda breakthrough. While everybody has been talking about evidence-based approach, evidence-based Ayurveda is a buzzword currently. But do we really understand what do we mean by evidence-based approach? Yes, formulating a question, searching for evidence, apprising an evidence, and applying it to evaluate. This is the cycle where we would be looking into right from evidence-based diagnosis to evidence-based management, which is very important. At the same time, it is very important for Ayurveda at this juncture, in this century, to talk rigorously about translational medicine. We have a lot of robust data on clinical work which is being done. We see a lot of papers and articles, including COVID-19, where Ayurveda has proved significant with respect to clinical outcomes. But when it comes to explanation of mechanism of action, how Ayurveda works, we are not able to translate in a contemporary language which the current world understands. It is at this point that a bench to bedside to patient, this entire framework of translational medicine helps. Basic research translates basic sciences to human studies. Clinical research then takes it forward, the translation of new knowledge into clinical practice and improved health outcomes. We do hear a lot of people opting for Ayurveda for diabetes, where right from one medicine to Karela juice to the entire framework of rigorous clinical chikitsa being rendered for diabetes mellitus. But at this point where we clearly know that current diabetes or endocrinology is at a step where we see a lot of side effects, where we see more than side effects, treatment intensification. We see diabetes which is completely suboptimally managed by oral hypoglycemic agents, intensified to various levels of OHAs, and then escalating it to insulin. And when it goes on and on with insulin and with again a suboptimal or a refractory diabetes, patients ending up with lot of complications. At the same time, we see Ayurveda has a great potential to treat diabetes mellitus, to prevent diabetes mellitus, to understand the mechanisms which are occurring in a patient's body. So at this point, I feel that this work by Dr. Gordon of stage paper for researchers and academicians to concentrate on. It talks about that pathophysiology of both progression and remission of diabetes. That is what also is seen in Ayurveda Samhitas, where we see from the Kafaj Prameha to Vataj Prameha, Madhumeha, and complications. We also see in Ayurveda words like Prameha Nivritti, which is very much quoted in Sushrut Samhita, which talks about remission and reversal of diabetes. There is an aphorism which says about the movement of diabetes from sadhya to yapya to krach sadhya and going in backward direction. Exactly from this research paper, we find that there is movement across stages 1 to 4, which can be in either direction. Individuals with type 2 diabetes who undergo gastric reduction surgery move from stage 4 to stage 1. And even conventional treatments with all of these people return to stage 2. Similarly, for type 1 diabetes, as remission develops, progression from stage 4 to stage 2 is typically found. So as in Ayurveda, we see these points. This is clearly a very clear diagram where stage 0 is a normal and stage 1 is a compensated stage of beta cell mass where there is insulin resistance, patient is obese. From this to stage 2, definition of stage 2 is as a stage of adaptation where beta cell mass continues, there is loss of beta cell mass and values are but still under control. When it comes to stage 3, there is decompensation, transient beta cell mass, and as it progresses again to stage 4, we see patients decompensating with typically a lot of reduction in beta cell mass and sugars rapidly progressing higher and higher. Stage 5 is a state where even patients of type 2 diabetes land up with very high sugar as high as 350 and above. And we see a stage of ketosis in type 1 diabetes. The development of concept of 5 stages of beta cell function in nutshell characterize the progression of diabetes that has emerged from clinical observation by many scientists and work with animal models of diabetes. Now, I would pause here with respect to the research paper which has been given. This is a research paper is a kind of a review or a hypothesis which has been derived from Dr. Gordon's clinical observation of patients with respect to diabetes and its presentation. And here when we try to correlate that with an Ayurveda perspective, let us see how Ayurveda defines disease evolution. It talks about Sanchay, Prakop, Prasar, Sthana Sanshray, Vyakta and Bheda as Bheda or Upadrava. At each of these stages, there is accumulation of doshas, aggravation of doshas, there is localization of doshas, dissemination of doshas, and manifestation and complications. This is through which each disease condition progresses, including diabetes mellitus. When we look at the type of pramehas, we find Kafaj 10 types are Sadhya, Pittaj 6 types Yapya, Vataj 4 types Asadhya. Now, laying this perspective and how does it correlate to Dr. Gordon's paper, where we do have 3 stages of prameha or 2 types of patients clinically found, Sthula Pramehi and Krisha Pramehi. But we are still not in a position to define that Kafaj Pramehi, what does it indicate clearly when it comes to molecular markers, or what is the mechanism or a pathogenesis which is happening in those set of patients. Similarly, Pittaj and Vataj. While there is lot of research, lot of Ayurveda published papers as well in diabetes, which talks about markers like FBS, PPBS, urine microalbuminuria, albumin or C-peptide levels, etc. But when it comes to exactly how do you measure insulin resistance in Kafaj Prameha, or stage 0, what do we consider? What do we consider when it comes to Pittaja, and similarly when it comes to Vata type of Prameha? Prameha Samprapti, if you see here clearly that Prakupit Kapha does Samurchana with Abadha Meda, Sharir Kleda and Mamsa. As we know, this is clearly a stage which is defined. When we talk in this language, we would not be able to convince or what is a need. It is definitely a need to correlate this aspect into levels of serum adiponectin or beta cell mass, and try to provide an evidence or try to hypothesize in terms where we are clearly able to establish first the etiopathogenesis of diabetes, and then trying to ensure that what is the mode of intervention, like when Gand Udvartanam is told as a line of treatment for Prakupit Kapha, that is to clearly shed off the Abadha Meda. Definitely that would then open up the avenues of mechanism of Udvartanam on insulin resistance and likewise. Similarly, we can see for each of these stages of diabetes how the correlation with each stage of diabetes can be laid forward. Elements involved in manifestation are clearly told as Kapha, Pitta, Vata, Dushyas, Medas, Rakta, Shukrambu, Vasa, Lasika, Majja, Rasa, Ojas and Mamsa. These are all the elements that are told. How do we measure them when it comes to each specific stage of diabetes? I have tried to hypothesize here the parallels as per Dr. Gordon's paper. We have the stage of compensation. Characteristic features are insulin resistance, obesity, higher overall rate of insulin secretion, and there is an increase in beta cell mass. From an Ayurveda perspective, we see that it is Kafaj Pramehi Sthula Rogi. Characteristic features of Samprapti are Kapha dosha gets lodged, gets associated with Vayu, Pitta, Kapha and Medas. When it comes to stage 2, there is glucose-driven derangement of lipid pathways in beta cell. Lipotoxicity is clearly seen. There are changes in beta cell differentiation. It is here in this stage. Still, Kapha continues to be aggravated, but there is a Pitta involvement which comes in, and it gets into rest of the tissues including Vayu and Rakta along with Medas. When it comes to unstable and early decompensation stage, there is relatively rapid rise of glucose, transient beta cell mass, this borderline reduction, which defines as a Pitta Pramehi, Pitta plus other tissues and doshas are involved. Stage 4 is stable decompensation. Beta cell mass reduces by 50%, very less efficient insulin secretion. Very clearly, we could see involvement of Vata, and along with that, there is an increase in Dushyas. Vasa, Majja are included along with the other doshas. As it comes to severe decompensation, there is marked loss of beta cells. Ketotic patient is completely dependent on insulin. We clinically find this correlating with Madhumeha. Stubborn refractory diabetes patient already has crossed complications with one or two, either as diabetes nephropathy, neuropathy, or retinopathy. There could also be some more microvascular and macrovascular complications would have been set in. Clearly a characteristic feature where apart from the doshas and dushas, there is pronounced dhatukshaya, there is extreme loss of ojas, which happens here at the stage of severe decompensation. This is completely a hypothesis which is based upon day-to-day clinical experience of diabetes patients who present in various stages of dosha, dushya, and the role of intervention which has been applied. So here, trying to compare both the theories which are there. The Ayurveda fundamental theory of Nidana and Chikitsa, which has been told as all Asya Sukham, right from there to the entire Samprapti, where there are certain dietary and lifestyle behaviors which lead to kind of insulin resistance, obesity, which we clearly see as which would be happening, leading to aggravation of doshas. When this theory on one side is kept alongside the current paper which is there, we would find clinically that Ayurveda has a true potential of preservation of beta cell, preservation and replenishment. Type 2 diabetes can develop with no loss of beta cell mass. That is, it develops as an unchanged beta cell mass. It becomes inadequate. We can see this very clearly when there is impaired Agni and all other dosha, dusha aggravating factors. This dysfunctional insulin secretion can be reversed when glucose levels are lowered by comprehensive approach of diet, lifestyle medicine, and panchkarma therapies. There is a need of robust framework to build good understanding of responsible molecular mechanisms of how hyperglycemia and prameha influences beta cell birth and death. That is the entire thing of apoptosis and uncontrolled apoptosis, which is there. There is this concept of regenerative biology where we see Ayurveda working on production of endogenous insulin, and we see clinically patients with very high HbA1c and with lot of other complications along with that. When we take them through this process, they see a great change and almost a reversal. While everything is very much, and it sounds so magical, it sounds amazing when we see a clinical outcome. But what when it comes to basic research? Ayurveda still needs to work more, and the stages of diabetes which have been told has clearly a potential to get into that framework of research and try to try to define a lot more precise what is meant by Kafach Prameha when it comes to molecular markers, Pittach Prameha and Vata Prameha. There is definitely a movement which occurs from Kapha to Pitta to Vata and going back. What is it that is occurring? That is what as researchers, as clinicians, we could all come together and bring in this framework. So I would end here, and clearly my thanks to Dr. Pratibha Shah and Council of Ayurveda Research, my patients, my colleagues at Ayurveda hospitals for giving me this insight and an environment to bring in the concept of diabetes and to trying to understand that in contemporary research. So I would pause here for questions, if any.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for a very extensive, that article itself is very extensive, but you have presented it in a very collaborative and analytical way. And particularly that table which was highlighting the stage-wise representation from the article and Ayurvedic perspective. If there are any questions from the audience, they can put it in the chat or they can unmute and talk. Meanwhile, I'll just ask one question, ma'am. That this article talks about progression of the disease in various formats. Like this is a hypothetical kind of a stage-wise representation which author has put it across in an article. There are so many diseases, contemporary or maybe some chronic also, where there could be a new insight from Ayurveda which we can elaborate in publication. So in terms of publication, what kind of advice will suggest that how to publish that kind of data? Because some of the clinicians experience it every day, that certain methodology changes, the textbook compendia, some practice is slightly different. We are getting different experiences from the clinical side. So how to present it in the publication? This is one format today which we discussed. Any other format which you would like to advise?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Dr. Pranita. And this subject is really close to my heart because if we look at the current repository of research articles and the quality of articles that are coming out, we clearly find a gap. Is that we have some remarkable clinicians and outstanding senior Vaidyas, physicians who are into practice. And we have extremely learned researchers on the other side who are not into practice, right? So clearly this bridge, there is this gap which needs to be bridged. We need to translate that clinical medicine into research and to bring into this aspect. I may be doing fantastic clinical work, but I am not able to publish, I am not able to write. So at this point in Ayurveda, it is important that this multidisciplinary team of clinicians and researchers get together, and as I told in my first slide, that evidence building to translational medicine.
Yeah.
It is very important that clinicians are informed which are the contemporary markers, which are the science lab, whether with respect to lab medicine or with respect to imaging, imaging, etc., which is to be used. That format needs to be derived, and by doing so, there would be robust data with respect to Ayurveda, which will try to fill this gap in one sense. Also, it will try to bring out the mechanism of action. We are currently lagging. We have lots of papers where this medicine works on certain condition, certain Ayurveda medication working on this. But what is it that needs to be progressed? We need to progress is in terms of fundamentals of a disease pathogenesis. And I think this way of working together, trying to bring in that into clinical practice would add a lot of data, and lot of things then would come into research and publications. Clinical trials can be based on such hypothesis where a pilot has already been done in day-to-day clinical practice. And then when that is translated into robust trials, I think that has a better future and a bright future for Ayurveda.
Yeah, definitely, ma'am. And in fact, you also highlighted one aspect that this disease is reversible. If there is a timely intervention happening, we can actually reverse the diabetic conditions, and that is a very important point to take home. I would also like to mention that there are certain fundamental terminologies, uh, like you mentioned about the gap, that these terminologies are so complex that sometimes they cannot be translated into the contemporary language. And
Absolutely.
there maybe we need to work together so that a mutual SOP, a mutual treatment line can be developed so that we can refer the same language, at least in the Ayurvedic fraternity. So this definitely helps. And today's article in terms of a publication is very unique. Your selection of this article was really helpful for the audience as well, because this article highlights on various stages and how a contemporary or a modern article can be correlated with Ayurveda. That was something to look up, and you really must have provided many insights to the upcoming researchers. So I really appreciate your time today, and I really thank you for a wonderful session. And if there are any queries, I'll just take it to you in future also. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dr. Pranita.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And this today's presentation is available on the Council for Ayurveda Research archives along with the research article. So those who are having any questions or some queries, they can write us to Council for Ayurveda Research as well as Ayurveda Anusandhan Abhiyan Foundation. And both the organizations are looking into the Journal Club activity as a platform where beginners and advanced level can come together and interact. So let us take this opportunity and make this a productive platform altogether. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming here
Thank you,
once
Dr.
again.
Pranita.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.